is a continuation of a computer-generated reading of the Discourse, Proletariat Revolution in Post-Capitalist Society, by P.R. Sarkar. It appeared as Discourse number 18, in the publication titled, Universal Humanism. Revolution means a great change. For a change to come or to bring about a change, it is not that bloodshed is inevitable. But then if the majority of the disgruntled workers be martially minded or if their martial influence be dominant, revolution indeed comes through sanguinary clashes. It cannot, however, be emphatically said that, without bloodshed or intellectual clashes, a revolution cannot come. Bloodless revolution is only possible if the number and influence of the intellectuals among the disgruntled workers be very great. But we cannot expect the last named possibility, and so it has to said that the popular emancipation, in most cases, is blood-soaked. Some claim that they are capable of bringing in socialism or universalism or mass emancipation through democratic methods. On the whole, the fundamental policy of the welfare state is also the same. People very often say that England, France and a few other democratic states are progressing towards socialism. I asked, is such testudinal or tortoise-like progress of any importance? There are many countries which, keeping out of democracy, have been bringing comfort to their people with much greater speed and expedition than would Great Britain, keeping within the framework of democracy, has been able to do for her people in a good few centuries. Here speed is not the important factor. The pace those countries, that used to exploit their different colonies, maintained in doing good to the masses from within the democratic framework, chosen the path of proletariat revolution and elected to do good to the society. Actually, in a democratic setup, the process of mass betterment and advancement is very, very slow. So we cannot call it revolution but evolution, gradual change. If any undeveloped country takes to this slow gradual process instead of the path of revolution, or deliberately ignores the flaws in the scheme of democratic socialism or the welfare state, its thought of public welfare will be nothing short of building castles in the air. In a democratic setup, one has to take help from rogues and knaves and other different antisocial riffraff in order to get votes. These antisocial elements certainly do not support any candidate selflessly. They expect that when these candidates become ministers they will certainly overlook the antisocial behavior of their supporters. Of the fundamental factors on which socialism depends, the cooperative system is one. Cooperative institutions cannot stand unless the responsibilities of state administration rest with honest citizens. Then again, unless the cooperatives come under the management honest citizens they cannot stand either, and socialistic states will also come to naught. So unless the moral, spiritual and educational standard of a very big part of the people be very high, passable or ordinary standard will not do it. We cannot expect to have really able people as representatives, ministers, or directors of the cooperatives. The dishonest managers or directors of the cooperative institutions will steal money, and the dishonest ministers will indirectly support the theft of impuissant, weak-minded ministers will deliberately wink at such crimes in the fear of losing their ministry in the hope of getting votes in the future. If such malpractices continue, no cooperative institutions can mold themselves, nor can the malpractices be removed from courts and secretariats, nor can socialism ever see the light of day. The supreme height of morality that is necessary for the establishment of socialism in a democratic structure is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get. That is why we cannot hope that democratic socialism, though theoretically not bad, is ever possible in this practical world. The disgruntled workers who take the leadership of the proletariat revolution are imbued with martial qualities in respect of courage, dynamism and strength of mind to take the risks and hazards of life. After the proletariat revolution, the leadership of society indeed comes to these disgruntled workers. When their martial qualities come into prominence still more conspicuously and vigorously, in the post-revolutionary era they should no longer be called the disgruntled workers. At such a stage they become the martial class of the second social cycle. Those that keep vigilant eyes on these militants, lest they land in the role of exploiters subsequently, are indeed the moral, virtuous and undaunted fighters, the Sadvipras. If the militants take to exploitation, the Sadvipras shall fight against them and establish the intellectual era in the second phase of the social cycle. Then again, if the intellectuals take to exploitation, they shall fight against the intellectuals and pave the way for the capitalist era of the second social cycle. Afterwards, if the capitalists take to exploitation or want to play the role of exploiters, then these Sadvipras shall incite and inspire disgruntled workers and bring about proletariat revolution for the second time. So the social cycle shall go on and on. None can stop this rotation. If we call the post-revolution martial era the thesis, then the counter-step taken by Sadvipras against the militants disposed to exploitation, we shall call the antithesis and resultant indication of post-revolution intellectual era following this fight, the synthesis. Later on, if the intellectuals take to exploitation, the counter-move then taken by the Sadvipras against them will be known as the antithesis. And so at that time, instead of calling the post-martial intellectual era synthesis, we may call it the thesis of the next phase. None, not even the Sadvipra, can stop the rotation of the social cycle. The Sadvipras, established in the central hub of the social cycle, shall be alert and awake, keeping a vigilant eye on the process of rotation. After the martial era will come the intellectual era, and after the intellectual era will begin the capitalist era, and then proletariat revolution. Like this, one era will always follow another. The Sadvipras cannot stop this process, but then they must be vigilant, so that after the establishment of the post-revolution martial era the militants may not take the role of exploiters but only govern the society as its guarantors. The moment the militants give indications of exploitation, the Sadvipras shall immediately bring about the antithesis and thereby end the martial era. They shall take similar steps in the intellectual as well as the capitalist eras. That is to say, instead of letting the society drift towards natural evolution, they shall facilitate social revolution as per necessity. Therefore the Sadvipras shall have no rest, ever. Such a time will never come in the life of a Sadvipra when he or she will relax in an armchair and say, "Ah, I have nothing to do today. Let me rest a while." In the first phase of the human history of the world, Sadvipra society has not yet formed itself. In most countries the last part of the first phase is on the move. Only in a few countries the post-revolution marital era has been established. At places the intellectual era is just around the corner. In the absence of a Sadvipra society the social cycle is moving on its natural round. In every age, government of the predominant class is being followed by exploitation, and thereafter comes evolution or revolution. For want of Sadvipra's assistance, the foundation of human society is lacking firmness. Today I extend my earnest request to all reasonable, virtuous and moral fighters that they form a good, disciplined Sadvipra society without further delay. These Sadvipras shall work for the good of all countries, for the all-round emancipation of all humanity. The downtrodden humanity of this disgraced world is looking up to the eastern horizon, awaiting their advent with earnest zeal and eagerness. Let the Cimmerian darkness of the interlunar night disappear with their advance. Let humanity of the new day, of the new sunrise, wake up in the new world. With these good wishes I conclude my discourse.